What are, let's say, recommended ways of Flutter adoption? What would you say to the senior executive managers, business managers who are considering Flutter? What should be the way they should adopt?
Yeah, so there's certainly two paths to go from native apps to a Flutter app, and they are the incremental approach or the wholesale approach. And just kind of philosophically, of course, those would be the only two ways. So the wholesale approach is the simpler path, but it generally involves a maybe 1 to 2 year, depending on the size of the development team, the size of the app, freeze in new features. You say, we're not going to ship anything for however long this takes. You know, this is the state of our current app, and we're going to replicate that in Flutter and then move forward. And the Google Classroom team recently completed just such an effort, and actually just published a blog post kind of outlining their adventure and also the metrics of their feature development velocity increases that they've seen since shipping their rewrite with Flutter, and their kind of formula for when they know they will have paid back all of the investment of the rewrite. And so they've figured out, you know, it's going to take X amount of features, and in the several months, I think they've launched between 6 and 9 months ago for Android and iOS, but they've already paid down 40% of their investment to rewrite the app in just a few months, because they're now developing features literally 3 times as fast, because they only write it once, it takes less lines of code, and then there's just less coordination overhead between the things, right? That's the core Flutter story. So that's the direct approach, and it's of course not always appropriate. You know, for many apps, they've got a ton of features, their users are demanding, and a 2-year feature freeze is a complete non-start. And so for those, then you look at the incremental add to app approach. And admittedly, that's an area where the Flutter team is looking to spend a lot of time and energy kind of smoothing out, reducing friction in that adventure or in that path in the near term, because an initial theory that the Flutter team had, and this goes back a lot of years to the 2018-2019 range, was that that would be a very important user journey to support. But then what actually happened for the first Google customers was they tested Flutter, and obviously not every single one immediately jumped to Flutter, but the ones that did decided, actually, let's just do a complete rewrite. This incremental thing seems cool and whatnot, but we just want a clean slate, and we know our code base will be better if we have a clean slate as opposed to this kind of hodgepodge Frankenstein, you know, technically Frankenstein's monster, you know, incremental code base through the transition. Clean slate, let's do it from scratch. And so the add to app story just kind of got a little de-emphasized over the years, because our biggest customers, right, Google teams that were using Flutter, kept not using it. But we hear repeatedly now from the community, from enterprises, that it's absolutely required. And so in the next 1 to 2 years, I mean, starting now, but for the next while, it's going to be receiving a lot of attention, a lot of love, to hopefully become a lot smoother.
This is the reason why it was also mentioned on the roadmap.
Exactly.
For the Flutter this year, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.